We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
American leftism has found herself in surprisingly good fortune. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, tensions in our country have significantly cooled. She need no longer fear baseless allegations of treason or malignancy, such that, for the first time since the onset of the Cold War, she's had the opportunity to crawl out of her hidey hole, stretch her wings, and get to work. Socialist policies are being slowly adopted by the Democrat Party. Few socialists are federal lawmakers, and a 2020 Gallup poll found that 47% of Americans would even vote for a socialist presidential candidate. It seems as though it's only a matter of time now before she takes flight, and no major hurdles are left to be jumped. Good work, everyone. We did it.
We have the greatest military in the world, but you have to know how to use them. You have to know how to use them. But I protect you against outside enemies. But I always say we have the outside enemy, so you can say China, you can say Russia, you can say Kim Jong-un, you can say, but that's not, it's going to be fun. If you have a smart president, no problem. It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China and Russia.
I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Oh, that's no good. It's difficult to see the Western world as it stands and not think back to the 1930s. Economic downturn and discontent with ineffective liberal governance has sent far-right movements sweeping through Europe and North America. Belligerent forces make war on their smaller neighbors under the guise of pan-nationalist liberation. One cannot shake the feeling that we stand at the ever more tumultuous end of a fast fracturing era, and the future is not one to wait around for late arrival. And so we find ourselves at an incomprehensible crossroad of murky paths and grim choices. All this history, but none can guide us. All these promises, but none can be relied on. It's hard not to feel defeated and alone. But we are not defeated, and you aren't alone. If MAGA has taught us anything, it's that a movement is more than capable of surviving 4 years with the ops resplendent and moisturized. It's unfortunate that Trump was victorious, and his next term will be undoubtedly capricious. But we will survive. You will survive, and in the meantime, there is a lot of work to do. If you're a leftist and you don't like the Democrats, welcome to the club. They have all the diligence and reliability of Epstein's prison guards. But if you're a leftist and you won't vote for the Democrats, then you have no idea how it is that things get done. We don't get to pick someone that we like. That's the unfortunate reality of the situation. When you and I go to the voting booth, we're choosing who we want to negotiate with, and I will always rather negotiate with the Democrats. Maybe you didn't vote for Kamala because she wasn't far enough left, or because you felt that the candidates were running on basically the same platform. I think that's the worst take, since Aristotle proudly stated women can't come, but even if she and Trump had the exact same policy and promises, I'd still vote for Kamala every single time, because she's the one I'd rather negotiate with. Think about it this way. In 2008, Obama and McCain actually had the exact same position on gay marriage. All through the campaign trail, they both said that marriage is between a man and a woman, and they had no plans to change that. If you were a single-issue gay voter, you would have simply abstained that election. And yet, Obama was elected, and he was moved on the issue. He appointed 2 Supreme Court justices who then federally enshrined gay marriage in his second term. We didn't get that victory by picking who we liked, we got it by picking the right person to negotiate with. And had they abstained, gay people may still not have the right to marriage. We cannot be passive observers who show up to begrudgingly vote every 2 years. We have every reason to be the strongest soldiers our milquetoast neoliberal overlords could ever ask for. Democrat victories are far more important for us than they will ever be for liberals. When Hitler rose to power, the Hillary Clintons survived, the Nancy Pelosi's were untouched. It was the communists for whom they built the death camps. I don't know about you, but I'm too pretty for death camps. I've got soft little hands. If you're still watching this video, odds are you're a socialist, a communist, an anarchist, a social democrat, or any other term of choice for someone who likes poor people and hates bedtime. If that is you, good guess, but it's not. Better luck next time. In the mind of the median American voter, communists want Stalinist Russia, socialists are communists who pretend to want Norway, and social democrats are people who really do want Norway, but are too stupid to realize Norway actually is Stalinist Russia. These terms are confused and loaded to the point of being serious liabilities in American politics. The purpose of a label in the political sphere is to put forward a simple, understandable message that increases your reach and favorability. Every single commonly used word for economic leftists falls flat on its face in every way a title needs to succeed. So if you're using one of them, I strongly encourage you to reconsider. See, the American left is in dire need of a rebrand, and as much as the 1930s have to teach us about the rise of fascism and collapse of liberal institutions, they also have a lot to teach us about how to survive it. While reactionary dictators swept through the West, we Americans elected FDR 4 times. He was a populist and a leftist. He brought prosperity to all Americans while combating the influence of the moneyed class on government. He was a titan of the people. He was a New Deal Democrat. What are we, if not that? FDR was an enormously popular president with a legacy of fighting for the poor, ending the Great Depression, unseating fascists across the globe, and battling the bourgeois influence in government. There is no better, more fitting, or more strategic icon for the American left. He brought a voice to the people. He brought an end to dictatorial Europe, and today he can bring us to a prosperous and equitable future. Now that I've effortlessly convinced you to drop your silly identity and take mine instead, you must be wondering what beliefs you should have. Worry no longer, my sweet summer child, I am more than willing to bestow you with takes aplenty. For the New Deal to have success as a movement, our aims must be clear and consistent in a way that can be easily understood by the median voter and explained in a 30-second ad. We are going to give workers what they're owed, get big money out of government, and protect our environment. Of course, we will have other positions. We need good positions on social issues and foreign policy, but these cannot be allowed to rise at or above the 3 pillars of our ideology. The Democrats have very effectively demonstrated that it doesn't actually matter how good or bad your policies are on these things. They are too fragile, susceptible to change, and easy to strawman to ever stake a campaign on. If the New Deal is built around worker empowerment, oligarch disempowerment, and climate protection, what do we push for to make that happen? There's a lot to be done, but to start, we need to make unions strong, commonplace, and government supported. Negotiating power has been systematically stripped from American workers for decades now, and corporations must be dragged back to the table. This can never happen, though, while moneyed interests hold the people's government hostage. Citizens United has to be overturned as soon as possible. All donations of any kind need to be capped at grassroots levels, and corporate government collusion must be made an extremely serious crime. Politicians' earnings need to be tightly regulated, and numerous investigations should be launched into historical bribery and shady deals in government. Finally, it is imperative that we tackle climate change at home and abroad. Every minute we waste, we are running out of time to prevent incalculable damage to our way of life. Not only do we need to revolutionize energy production, consumption, and goods manufacturing at home, we also need to force it abroad. At home is fairly simple, if extremely difficult. Nearly all destructive industries can be adjusted through targeted taxes and regulations. Ultimately, it will mean making sacrifices. We can't dedicate half our land to making meat, we can't waste 40% of our food, and we certainly can't use the occasional drops of water that trickle into the southwest to spray on needless lawns. The types of sacrifices we will have to make to stop changing the climate might seem unthinkable or even unachievable. But the funny thing about unsustainable practices is that they are not sustainable. Continuing to do these things is objectively not possible. Eventually, and sooner than you likely imagine, circumstance will force sustainability upon us, and I promise you, that is much, much worse. Abroad requires widespread international collaboration. Countries damage the environment not because it's fun, which it is, but because it's profitable. Harsh tariffs, sanctions, and trade agreements are required to make it unprofitable. Even still, good and clear aims do not a movement make. An almost always underlooked quality when it comes to the success of political ideologies, parties, and movements is the strength of their internal mythos. The Republicans have a strong and commonly understood mythology of America as it is and ought to be. To them, America is the greatest country on earth. She's the land of freedom and opportunity ordained by God to protect her people and allow all to succeed or fail on their own merits. Liberals have no comparable mythos. That's not to say they don't have any closely held gut beliefs. They believe that America is a great democratic experiment and a nation built on diversity, for example, but they do not have a complete picture and they do not treasure it with the faith and fervor required to hold beliefs about how the nation should be as facts of what it is in substance. New Deal Democrats must have no such shortcomings. America is a proud nation of workers and immigrants. We will always support our own, and the world looks to us for leadership. On these fronts, there can be no ground given.
We have need of that devotion today. It is that which makes it possible for government to persuade those who are mentally prepared to fight each other to go on instead, to work for and to sacrifice for each other. That is the road to peace.
Democrats have shown a historical willingness to change if it's the only way to remain viable. There has never been a better moment to push them to the left. We need hard work, smart optics, and a bit of luck. And if there's anything FDR showed us, it's how to stand up for what we believe in. Hammer hard. I'll see you next time.